Are the Lakers better off without Kyrie?
No, because LeBron James and Kyrie, when those two were together, like LeBron's never had a better running mate, basketball fit than Kyrie Irving. And at this point of his career, where, you know, we don't know how many more years he's going to play, like you look at this and you think about, okay, Kyrie's scoring ability can take some of that offensive burden off of LeBron James. So whether that happens or not still, it sounds like Brian Windhorst was putting it out there that you cannot rule a trade off the, you know, that's, you just can't rule it out just yet. With Kyrie Irving potentially going to the Lakers still after all of this.
Oh my gosh.
So if that happens, LeBron is the greatest GM ever. Like if he's able to pull it off after all of this that just happened, like there would be a lot of things that need to happen there, and obviously there's the 3-team trade because, you know, they'd have to get Russ out of there somehow. Nobody wants that contract, and you would think they would have already dealt Russ to Brooklyn,
if
right?
that was all going down.
If it was going down already. So they've got to find another team to send Russell Westbrook that's not Brooklyn to get Kyrie Irving, who just opted into his contract with the Brooklyn Nets, somewhat like to the Los Angeles Lakers. Like, make it make sense, Victoria.
It would
make it make sense.
Look, we need a GPS for this. We might need to like go old school mapping here, you know.
Put it whatever old school, whatever approach you want to take. You need to go to NASA, MIT to figure it out. Good luck with those computations.
We need a tour guide.
Not even the tour guide's quitting at that point.
Yeah, the tour guide.
Part of the great resignation in this country. They're walking away from that job, but that's part of the job description.
We're just stuck.
But to your point in terms of better fit, on the basketball court, you're exactly right. We're talking about a guy in Kyrie Irving, like we mentioned, played 11 years in the NBA, has averaged over 23 points per game throughout his NBA career and shooting over 40% of the three-point line. We're talking about a guy who's a genius scorer with the basketball in his hand. So he'll fit anywhere with anybody. People say, well, you know, all he does is score. I mean, you know how many Hall of Famers in the NBA, all they did was score? I give you Karl Malone, for example. Could score and rebound, but he's in the NBA Hall of Fame because he can score. You can put the ball in the basket. You are very, very intriguing to anybody out there, no matter what goes on outside of that. The question is with the Los Angeles Lakers, I still wonder how serious were they about Kyrie Irving? I wonder how serious LeBron James, because I wonder if they got a phone, he got a call on his phone that, who this? No, that's not you. And he hung up his phone and went on about his business, thinking that can't be Kyrie. He can't be that serious. I wonder how serious the Lakers were about this because they have more important issues. And you mentioned Russell Westbrook. They still got to fortify that roster. They have a new head coach in Darvin Ham who seems to be a take no prisoners, no nonsense kind of guy. He's not putting up with any gruff from anybody. So a guy like Kyrie and Darvin Ham, that may not match up with the Los Angeles Lakers. So I still wonder. I mean, I get the sense Kyrie was a little interested, and then he put himself out there and got no feelers, no takers. But I still question how serious the Lakers were when they got more pressing issues before even dealing with that issue about trying to bring Kyrie Irving to this basketball
Well, he's
team.
the only big superstar that's out there that they could have made this work with. I mean, think about their finances and all that they cannot do during free agency, during this offseason to upgrade the roster. So when they saw an opportunity, and he knew he would have had to take a massive pay cut in order to make this happen. So it's a short-term gain for the long-term gain to set himself up for that. If there was anybody who could have made this happen, it's LeBron James, knowing his past with Kyrie Irving and apparently the friendship and the bond that's been, you know, fortified after it was kind of fractured when Kyrie Irving said that. Remember that when he was leaving the leaving the Cavs, it was reported that he said he would have rather had off-season surgery than stay with LeBron James. So clearly fences have been mended there. But if there's anybody who could have made this happen, like I really do think it was realistic for him to go to the Los Angeles Lakers. And you know, if this thing ends up happening in the future, again, LeBron is incredible at what he could pull off, but they need help. Like, when I take a look at the Western Conference right now and think about what this Lakers roster is right now and what it's going to be, I'd be worried because he needs help. He needs help. He needs Anthony Davis to be healthy. He needs Russell Westbrook to re-find himself in the old version, which I don't know if that still exists. And for LeBron, that offensive burden and just the entire burden gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Kyrie Irving is the only player that could have lessened that. I mean, think about like how limited the sample size we saw last year. He still averaged 25 points on 50, 40, and 90 shooting. Fourth player ever to do that. So, I mean, he can still do remarkable things. LeBron knows that. The entire basketball world knows that. The Lakers would have been the only place that could have pulled that off.
There are a lot of ifs there in terms of if LeBron can do this again, if Anthony Davis can stay healthy, if Kyrie Irving. You don't win championships on ifs.
No.
And especially when you're a fractured organization, at least on the basketball court. When it comes to Los Angeles Lakers, they're even more fractured behind the scenes, involving the bus kids trying to figure this out with that organization. So can you imagine what kind of reality show this would have been? If you add Kyrie Irving to this whole thing, man, he'd have put the Kardashians away from that standpoint if he had a chance to join the Lakers. I still firmly believe that there was interest from him, but he was wanting to see the Lakers could move heaven and earth to make it work from a money standpoint. He was not going to play for them for $6.4 million in a mid-level exemption.
They wouldn't have been able to do it.
Right, and exactly. And I don't blame him. I wouldn't want him to play for that price tag either, especially when I know I had $36.9 million on the table from the Brooklyn Nets. He wanted to try, in my opinion, he wanted to try to facilitate a sign and trade, get that money, and maybe go to Los Angeles. When there were no takers, and I still wonder how serious the Lakers were in actually trying to do something like that. Then he said, well, at least I got this as my plan B. It's wonderful to have a plan B when you get made close to $37 million in 1 year. That's a great plan B.
That's a fantastic plan B.
But if you're the Lakers, to their issues and everything like that, they got a lot of things to worry about and trying to fit that whole sphere. That whole atmosphere when it comes to Kyrie Irving, because who's to say, as much of a better fit, that he's better than Russell Westbrook, if it's still going to work in a loaded Western Conference. We got Golden State, you got Memphis, Denver's going to be coming back with Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. joining Nikola Jokic. You got the Dallas Mavericks, who are probably going to re-sign Jalen Brunson. There are a lot of teams you have to deal with that you may not be this Lakers team you think you're going to be, no matter if Kyrie Irving was going to join you or not.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.